You say you want peace, but when everything's calm, you panic. Freud believed that people who grew up in chaos don't know how to feel safe. So they recreate stress just to feel at home. The quiet moments terrify you. When nothing demands your attention, when no crisis looms on your horizon. That emptiness, that stillness, you avoid it at all costs. You check your phone, start an argument, create a problem where none exists. Anything to fill the void that peace creates within you. This is the paradox that haunts so many of us. We chase tranquility with our words while our actions sprint toward the familiar comfort of chaos. Perhaps you recognize this pattern in yourself. The way you sabotage relationships just as they grow stable. How you create deadlines where none exist. The strange comfort you find in complaint. Look closely at your life. At the drama you unconsciously manufacture. At the storms you summon when the waters grow too still. What are you running from in those moments of calm? Sigmund Freud called this the repetition compulsion, a haunting tendency to recreate the emotional landscapes of our childhood, even when they wounded us beyond measure. If unpredictability was your earliest teacher, then peace feels like a foreign country. Its language unintelligible. Its customs strange and threatening. You remain a tourist there, never a citizen. The child raised in chaos develops extraordinary gifts. Hypervigilance, the ability to read a room in seconds, to anticipate the next crisis before it arrives, to navigate emotional minefields with precision. These adaptations saved you once, but now they trap you in cycles of self-created turmoil. The very skills that protected you have become the architects of your continuing unrest. When stillness arrives, your nervous system doesn't recognize it as safety. It registers only as the ominous calm before the storm, the silence before the scream, the moment before the fall. And so you create noise, movement, conflict. Your body knows this terrain. It understands these frequencies. Here, at least, you know how to survive. But survival is not living, and the chaos you create keeps you tethered to your past, preventing you from inhabiting the present or imagining a different future. Carl Jung, Freud's brilliant contemporary, understood this paradox deeply. He wrote that, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Your attraction to chaos isn't fate. It's not personality. It's not just how you are. It's a learned response to early environments where peace was either absent or quickly shattered. This pattern lives in your body more than your mind. It operates beneath conscious awareness. The tension in your shoulders, the knot in your stomach. These are the true architects of your discomfort with calm. Consider how often you've said, "I'll relax when," finishing the sentence with another achievement, another milestone, another threshold of worthiness you must cross before permitting yourself peace. But that threshold keeps moving, doesn't it? The finish line recedes just as you approach it. The permission to rest never quite arrives. This is the ghostly hand of your past, reaching into your present. The unconscious belief that safety is an illusion, that calm precedes catastrophe, that vigilance is the only protection. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast, still lake. Its surface mirrors the sky so perfectly you can't tell where water ends and heaven begins. This is peace. Yet for those conditioned by chaos, this lake appears not as refuge, but as threat. What lurks beneath that mirrored surface? What storms will shatter this impossible stillness? When will the other shoe drop? The philosopher Kierkegaard named this the dizziness of freedom. The vertigo we feel when facing the unstructured expanse of possibility. The terror of having nothing to push against. You've built your identity around responding to crisis. Around fixing, fighting, surviving. Who are you when there's nothing to fix? No one to fight? Nothing to survive? This question terrifies you. So you create new emergencies. New conflicts. New reasons to postpone the confrontation with your own unstructured existence. Psychologist Gabor Mate observes that trauma isn't what happens to you. It's what happens inside you as a result of what happened to you. It's the conclusions you drew about yourself and the world. If chaos was your earliest teacher, you learned that peace is temporary at best, dangerous at worst. That letting your guard down invites disaster. That hypervigilance is the price of survival. These lessons, written in the neural pathways of your developing brain, don't disappear simply because your circumstances change. They persist, driving behaviors that no longer serve you. Think of the prisoner released after decades of confinement, who feels anxious in open spaces, who misses the walls that once constrained them. Freedom becomes its own kind of prison. So too with those raised in emotional chaos. The very peace they consciously desire becomes unconsciously threatening. The absence of walls leaves them exposed, vulnerable, disoriented. This is why meditation feels impossible. Why vacation brings panic rather than relief. Why success triggers self-sabotage. Why love prompts you to build walls rather than bridges. The philosopher Martin Heidegger spoke of thrownness, our condition of being cast into a world we didn't choose, forced to create meaning from circumstances beyond our control. You were thrown into chaos. It wasn't your choice. You didn't create the conditions that taught you to fear stillness, to distrust peace, to find strange comfort in the familiar rhythms of crisis. But now you have a choice: to continue recreating the emotional landscapes of your past, or to step, trembling but determined, into the unfamiliar territory of peace. This journey begins with recognition, with naming the pattern that has shaped your life from shadows, bringing it into the light where its power diminishes under your conscious gaze. Notice how you sabotage stillness, the ways you introduce drama where none exists, the relationships you complicate, the deadlines you impose, the problems you magnify. These aren't character flaws. They're adaptations. Survival mechanisms that once protected you from genuine threats, but now prevent you from experiencing genuine peace. The body keeps the score, as trauma expert Bessel van der Kolk reminds us. Your nervous system remembers what your conscious mind may have forgotten or never fully understood. That tension in your chest when things go well. The insomnia that arrives with success. The vague dread that accompanies joy. These are echoes of old warnings, outdated but persistent. Healing begins not with forcing yourself to relax, but with compassionate curiosity about your discomfort with relaxation. Not with demanding peace, but with understanding your fear of it. When you notice yourself manufacturing chaos, pause. Breathe deeply into the discomfort of stillness. Ask yourself, what am I afraid might happen if everything were okay? If your answer is nothing, look deeper. Perhaps you fear losing your edge, your motivation, your identity as the survivor, the fighter, the fixer. Perhaps you fear discovering there's nothing beneath these roles. Or perhaps you fear that peace, once tasted, will make the inevitable return to chaos unbearable. Better not to know what you're missing. Better to remain in the familiar discomfort than risk greater loss. These fears make perfect sense given your history. They are not weakness. They are not failure. They are the psyche's attempt to protect itself from anticipated pain. But they are also no longer necessary. The child who needed hypervigilance to survive has grown into an adult with resources, resilience, and choices that child couldn't imagine. The philosopher Heraclitus said we cannot step into the same river twice. The waters flowing now are not the waters of your childhood. The stillness available to you now is not the ominous calm that preceded storms. You are not who you were. The world is not what it was. Peace is not what you feared it to be. This understanding doesn't transform your nervous system overnight. The body's wisdom changes slowly, through consistent experience that contradicts its outdated assumptions about safety. Begin with small doses of stillness. 5 minutes of genuine rest. A moment of undefended joy. A brief experience of success without immediately moving the goalposts or finding the flaw. Notice the discomfort these moments bring. The urge to disrupt them. To check your phone. To remember a problem. To find something wrong. Observe this pattern without judgment or shame. Then, gently, choose differently. Stay in the discomfort. Breathe through the unfamiliar sensations of peace. Allow yourself to feel awkward, exposed, vulnerable in the absence of crisis. This is how new neural pathways form, not through insight alone, but through repeated experience that gradually convinces your nervous system that stillness can be safe rather than threatening. The existentialist philosophers spoke of authenticity, the courage to create meaning in a universe that offers no inherent purpose, to choose freedom over familiar constraint, to author your own existence. Your authentic self isn't the hyper-vigilant survivor shaped by chaos. That was an adaptation, not an identity. Your authentic self exists beyond these patterns, waiting to emerge when they no longer bind you. As you practice tolerating peace, notice how others respond. Some will resist your transformation. The dynamics between you were built on your willingness to create or absorb chaos. Your partner may escalate arguments when you refuse to engage. Your family may increase pressure when you establish boundaries. Your workplace may demand more when you claim balance. These reactions are confirmation that you're changing patterns that extend beyond yourself. That your relationship with chaos has shaped not just your internal landscape, but your external relationships. If this resonates with you, if you recognize your own fear of stillness in these words, know that you're not alone. The path from chaos to peace is well traveled by fellow journeyers who share your history. The capacity for peace already exists within you. It's not something you need to create or earn or achieve. It's your natural state, buried beneath layers of adaptation and survival. Returning to this state requires patience, compassion, a willingness to feel uncomfortable as you rewrite the body's dictionary, teaching it that stillness can mean safety rather than danger. When you catch yourself manufacturing drama, treat that impulse with curiosity rather than criticism. There I go again, creating chaos because peace feels threatening. What am I afraid of in this moment? This awareness alone begins to loosen the pattern's grip. What operates unconsciously exerts the greatest power. What you can name and observe begins to transform under your conscious attention. Viktor Frankl, who survived the Nazi concentration camps, wrote that between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. Your power lies in that space. The moment between feeling discomfort with peace and automatically creating chaos to relieve it. That pause is where freedom begins. In time, you'll discover that peace isn't the absence of challenge, but the presence of authenticity. Not the elimination of difficulty, but the end of unnecessary suffering created by outdated defenses. True peace includes everything: joy and sorrow, success and failure, connection and solitude. It's not a state of perpetual happiness, but of fundamental integrity with your deepest self. This peace is your birthright. Not a distant shore you must struggle to reach, but the ground beneath your feet when you stop running. Not an achievement, but a recognition of what already exists. As the Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh said, peace is every step. Not waiting at some future destination, but available in this moment, in this one, as you learn to trust stillness. Your fear of peace is not your fault, but transforming that fear is your possibility. Your opportunity to create a life governed not by the chaos of your past, but by the authenticity of your present. The journey from chaos to peace isn't linear. You'll advance and retreat, remember and forget, surrender and resist. But with each cycle, the pull of old patterns weakens. New possibilities emerge. What awaits you beyond the familiar comfort of chaos? What gifts might you discover when peace no longer threatens your sense of self? What creation might emerge from genuine stillness? These questions can only be answered through living them, through the daily practice of noticing, pausing, choosing, through gentle persistence as you rewrite your relationship with calm. Remember, The chaos you create was once your salvation. Honor it for how it protected you. Then, with compassion for all you've survived, give yourself permission to need it less. You say you want peace. Perhaps now you understand why it's been so elusive. Not because you're broken or unworthy, but because peace itself became associated with danger in your earliest experiences. Knowing this truth changes everything. What was unconscious becomes conscious. What seemed like fate becomes choice. What felt like personality reveals itself as adaptation. And in this revelation lies your freedom. Not to become someone else, but to recover the self that chaos forced into hiding. Not to achieve peace, but to recognize it as your natural state. This is your invitation. To make friends with stillness. To welcome calm as an ally rather than a threat. To discover who you might become when peace no longer feels like a foreign country. The journey begins with a single breath. A moment of allowing rather than resisting. A gentle step away from the familiar terrain of chaos toward the unexplored territory of genuine peace. You are more ready than you know.